Martin Odegaard is an incredibly divisive subject at Arsenal Football Club right now. Fans entrenched in camps as to whether or not he's good enough, whether or not it's just a dip in form, what the long-term plan for him should be. And a lot of it, I think, is overblown. A lot of it is people going to the extreme with him. I think some of it is unfair. But there is just cause for concern at the moment. So I want to make a video that's kind of fair and balanced and maybe rational talking about it. Before we get into it, if I could ask you to subscribe down there. We're trying to get to 15,000 subscribers right now. We're less than 300 away. And if you could like the video as well, it helps get the video to more people. I'm massively appreciative for all of the support recently. But why am I making the video about this now? I think after the performance on Saturday, which was only a 28-minute cameo, some of the stuff I was seeing was way over the top. And also last night, Alexander Moneypenny, Alex from A Different Knock, I'm sure you know him, posted a tweet asking, if any Arsenal player could score the winner at the Bernabeu on Wednesday, excluding Hale Enders, who would you want it to be? And my instant reaction was Martin Odegaard. He has struggled this season. We know it. He knows it. And I think if there's any Arsenal player right now that could do with a goal, that could do with a moment, it is him. He's our club captain. He's one of the players that's kind of been here throughout the entire process with Arteta. I just think it would be brilliant. And lots of people agreed with that because there are lots of rational fans. But there was one reply in particular that caught my attention. And it basically said they don't want Odegaard to score because they don't want people to start giving him credit and changing their mind and deciding that he is good enough. And I've seen a few comments like that, effectively, that would rather see Odegaard fail so that they can continue to be correct and they can continue to turn around and say, I told you so, rather than Odegaard turn it around and Odegaard find the form that he has done with us previously. And I just think that is so damaging. I think it's so damaging. And a lot of it, I don't think is helped by the kind of, there's a couple of big Twitter tactico accounts that, call it what it is, have an agenda against Martin Odegaard and would love to be proved correct. So I do think some of it then gets overblown, and we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I think we have to be fair. This season in particular, Odegaard has struggled. Since he came back from injury, I actually thought immediately after he came back from injury, he looked very good for a couple of games. But his form has gone out the window. He is struggling. It is tough at times to watch him. And the numbers are there to back it up. And if we do look at the numbers, I think largely they show us what we know. 23-24 to 24-25. These are per 90 stats in the Premier League because that gives the fairest representation. He's not played enough outside of the Premier League this season for it to be fair. The number of goals he's scoring per 90 is more than halved from last season to this season. Now, what is actually interesting are the two stats below that. His expected goals only slightly lower, and his expected goals on target only slightly lower. But the number of actual goals has massively dropped. And what we've seen with Odegaard is his finishing has just been poor, ultimately. What we've seen from him is that he's getting into these positions, which is a good thing, by the way. The fact that he's still getting into these positions, he's still getting these chances, that is a good thing. The fact that he's not finishing them is a more solvable problem, in my opinion. I think a lot of it is down to confidence. I also think since coming back from injury, he just doesn't seem to strike a ball in the same way. That's the biggest thing I keep noticing is it doesn't feel like he is striking through a ball in the way that he has done previously. And when he's running onto those cutbacks, you know, one of the most common ways we would see Odegaard score goals was a cutback to him making a run from the edge of the box, and he doesn't seem to connect with those in the same way anymore. I think we've also seen it on set pieces. Now, I am hoping that that is a solvable problem. It should be, because we've seen him strike a ball well previously. Now, don't get me wrong, he doesn't have the most exceptional ball striking ability. He doesn't hit it particularly hard, but he is very much capable of scoring plenty of goals because we've seen him do it. And I think this season is the anomaly. So this is my first sort of point of contention with other people, is that they're almost suggesting that last season and the 22-23 season, that they were the anomalies and that this season's really his level. That I completely disagree with. And the numbers pretty much disagree with that too. We then look at his creativity. The rest of the numbers below that, by the way, pretty similar. He's not having as many shots this season. In fact, actually, that's probably the other interesting thing to look at. The number of shots that he's having. Shots on target is pretty similar, but the number of shots. And again, I think that comes down to confidence. And I think we're seeing him in positions where he's at the edge of the box, maybe, where you'd expect him to shoot, and he's just taking an extra touch. Or chances he gets inside the box. I remember against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup, there's one of those opportunities where he gets the ball and you're like, just shoot. Just pull the trigger, and he doesn't. He wants to take an extra touch, and that is a confidence thing as well. But we then go to creativity. And again, assists down by a third from last season to this season. Expected assists, though, down by about half that. So there is an element of luck. There is an element of he's still creating chances, but those chances aren't being taken at the same rate that they have done previously. And to that, you can perhaps look at the players ahead of him. You can perhaps look at the fact that for the majority of this season, he's not had Bukayo Saka with him. And we're going to talk about that as one of the factors that I think has caused his dip in form. And I've said it there. I suppose that kind of shows my hand. I think it's a dip in form if we're going to talk about that. But then successful passes, ever so slightly lower. His passing accuracy has actually improved. Long ball accuracy has improved. Chance creation has dropped a bit. And again, we're going to explain or look into perhaps why that has happened. And then the cross accuracy. Again, that bottom one, by the way, cross accuracy has massively plummeted. And I do wonder why that is. And again, I feel like that's kind of to do with the way he is striking a ball at the moment, which is a bit bizarre. It's a bit bizarre. But if we do talk about why his chance creation has fallen, I think part of it is to do with Saka being missing, Ben White being missing, and to a larger extent, a lack of runners. Now, if you bear in mind, he played the opening 3 games of the season. He was then out for a massive period. He came back end of November, and then Saka was out from the end of December. So those two have really not played much together. But this was an example from the game at the weekend where people were adamant, telling me that Odegaard had a really bad game. The cameo was terrible, and I didn't think it was. This was a moment that he is capable of magic. The ball over the top. I think it was Saliba played the ball over the top. His touch here is absolutely exquisite. And then he holds the ball up. He waits for Saka. He feeds it into Saka, and Saka shoots just wide. And that's one of those moments where if Saka buries that bottom corner, that is a brilliant assist. But he doesn't, and that's kind of the way it's been going for Odegaard this season. But outside of that, I think he created one other chance in the game in a 28-minute cameo. It's not awful. And I do feel like now people are highlighting things that Martin Odegaard does and making a much bigger deal of it, because they are things that he did last year. They are things he did the year before. And only now are people suggesting it's a problem. And one of those things is when he's on the edge of the box or near the edge of the box and he holds onto the ball and he'll turn one way and then he'll turn the other way and then he'll turn the other way again. And he's looking for an opportunity. And I don't really have a problem with it. And he's always done it. This is the key thing. He has always done it. And I've only really started noticing people really having a problem with it in the last few months. And this is what I mean by not everything is going wrong for him, but people are highlighting things and looking far more into things than they used to. But when he's turning and looking for an opportunity, one big thing I think he's lacking this season compared to normal is runners. And we've seen it a lot over the past couple of weeks. We've seen it where he's found Saka making those runs far more than a Nwaneri. Nwaneri doesn't tend to make those runs anywhere near as much. Jurriën Timber also doesn't tend to make those runs anywhere near as much as Ben White. And I think the fact that he's lost both of those runners means that he stood there, and even to an extent, Kai Havertz. He's missing Kai Havertz because Marino isn't making those runs anywhere near as much as Kai Havertz does either. And then even to an extent, the month that we were out without Martinelli, because Trossard's not making those runs as much as Martinelli does. Martin Odegaard thrives when he's got runners in behind that he can find. And those runners aren't there anywhere near as much at the moment. And I think that's one big, big difference between this season and last, because it's not just about the runner. It's not just about him finding the runner. It's also about him finding the runner, Saka bombing it down the inside or outside of the fullback, getting the ball at the byline, and then Odegaard running onto it in the box and receiving it back from Saka. We've not seen that anywhere near as much this season. And for me, I think that is the biggest difference between previous seasons and this one. And again, this isn't to take away from the fact that on his own level, Martin Odegaard is still struggling, right? But there are other factors. And that is why I've got no doubt going forwards, we will see Odegaard at his best again. I think he needs the summer. I do think he massively needs the summer. I don't think he was fit. I don't think he was fit when he came back from that ankle injury, to be honest. He came back very quickly from it, and he went... you look at how careful we've been with Saka from a similar time period out. Odegaard came straight back in. Didn't he play a full 90 against Chelsea? And then he's played a ridiculous amount of football since it without really having a break, because we've not had the players to facilitate that break. So I think he's lacking runners. I think that pod of White, Odegaard, Saka has been massively missed. I still think we've only had 4 games this season where those 3 have started together. The opening 3 games of the season, and then that Chelsea game, which was his first game back, which, by the way, he looked very good in that game. So I think that's part of it. I think he needs the summer. I also think at times he'd be better off moving to the left. That's the one thing that I would say is then on Mikel Arteta. Does he always need to be in that right pocket? I don't think he does. I think he would benefit at times from moving out to the left. And I always go back to the Trossard goal against Porto at home last season, where he'd moved out to the left. And I feel like he finds more opportunities there. And I wonder if it's to do with the other midfield personnel. I don't know. I don't know the reasoning behind that one, but I do think it would help him. And outside of that, by the way, outside of like his output, and realistically, as our most attacking sort of midfielder, he's meant to be our most creative midfielder. He's meant to be our most attack-minded midfielder. His output isn't good enough. I mean, his output compared to Declan Rice is a cause for concern. But the rest of his game is still there. He is still a leader. He is still putting in the yards, the running, the intensity of the press. You know, people didn't think he had a great game against Real Madrid. And again, output-wise, maybe not. But the press was very good, and he always has that. And I will never doubt how much he is committed to the club, how much he puts in to every game. And I just feel like things need to start clicking for him again. And I don't think it will happen this season. I don't. I have a feeling he needs the summer. He needs a reset physically, mentally. And some people may say this is a lack of standards or whatever. But I've seen him do it. And it's not like he's aging out. So I think it will come good for him. I do understand people's frustrations. I'm frustrated myself. But like I say, I think at times people over-egg it. I think at times people are over-analysing it. And that can be frustrating. But look, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was fair. I hope it was balanced as I tried to make it. I do generally feel like the amount of scrutiny on him at the moment, it is just too much. And look, for the betterment of Arsenal Football Club, it comes right. That's the main thing. That was the really annoying thing that made me make the video. The best thing for Arsenal is if he turns it around at the club. And hopefully that's what we get. Tomorrow will be a preview for the second leg at the Bernabeu. I'm excited to make that. I've got a lot of thoughts on it. Please do like the video before you jump off. Subscribe if you're not already. And I will catch you tomorrow for that preview. But until then, have a fantastic evening and goodbye.